today we're going to talk about quadratic functions. Remember, quadratic functions are functions with a degree of 2. And there's going to be two forms that we're going to see a quadratic function written as. The first form is f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Notice again the degree is 2. The second form is going to be f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Now that we know that the quadratic function can be written in two forms, let's take a look at its graph. First, notice this right here. This is going to be referred to as our vertex. So that's our vertex. And then we also have these points where it crosses the x-axis. Those are called our roots, or also known as your zeros. Alright, basically those are just the solutions of the function. Now that we reviewed the graph, the basic shape of the graph of the quadratic function, we're going to focus today on finding the vertex, which will tell us the minimum or maximum value of the function. Well, how are we going to know if it's a minimum or maximum value? Remember back to when we graphed basic functions and transformations. Think about if I had x squared, the basic shape was a U shape facing up. If I had negative x squared, it was a U shape, but it was facing downward. In this case right here, the vertex would be a minimum. In this case, my vertex would be a maximum value. So what coefficient or what constant is going to tell us if it's going to be a minimum or maximum value? Therefore, the a value is going to tell us whether it's a minimum or maximum value. And it doesn't matter what form it's in. So let's say if I had a positive, a, it's going to be facing up. So that means it's going to be a minimum value. If I have a negative a, it's going to be facing downward. So that means my vertex is going to be a maximum value because it is at its highest point in that case. So now that we know how to determine whether it's going to be a minimum or maximum value, let's talk about actually how are we going to find the vertex. So depending on what form it's in is going to depend on how we're going to find it. So let's say it's in the form of f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. If it's in this form, to find the vertex, the x value is going to be negative b over 2a. The y value is you're going to have to take the x and plug it into the function to find your y value. Now, if it's in the other form, it's pretty easy. So if it's f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. It's just basically what we did with the basic functions and transformations. The vertex is simply going to be the opposite of the inside. Whenever it's inside the parentheses, you're just going to take the opposite. So it's simply going to be, it's going to be h. And then remember, this right here moved my graph up or down. So my y value is simply going to be k. So let's take a look at a couple of examples. So let's start off example 1. Let's say f of x equals 5x squared minus 30x plus 49. Alright, so this is in the first form. So remember, to find the vertex, it's going to be negative b over 2a, and then the y value is going to be f of that. So first, let's go ahead and identify what our A, B, and C are. So my A is going to be 5. My b is going to be negative 30. And then my c, which we really don't need, is going to be 49. But we'll still write it down. Alright, so first let's figure out my x value. So I'm going to put negative b, so negative 30 over 2 times a. So I'm going to get 30 over 10, so my x value is going to be 3. Now we find my y. You're going to take what you got for the x, which was 3, and plug it in to f. So I'm going to have to find f of 3. So I'll plug that in. I'm going to get 5 times 3 squared minus 30 times 3 plus 49. So I'll get 3 squared is 9. 9 times 5 is going to give me 45 minus 90 plus 49. So I'll get negative 45 plus 49. So I'm going to get 4 for my y value. So that means that my final answer, my vertex, is going to be 3, 4. So that's my final answer. Now let's figure out, is that going to be a minimum or maximum value? So remember, to figure out if it's a minimum or maximum, we're going to take a look at my a value. My a value was positive, so that means this is a minimum value. Alright, let's do another one. Let's say we'll work in the same form. So let's say I had f of x equals negative 2x squared plus 4x minus 5. So again, let's label our a, b, and c. My a is going to be negative 2. My b is going to be 4. My c, which we don't really need, is going to be negative 5. So again, to find the vertex, it's negative b over 2a, and then my y value is f of that. So let's figure out my x value first. So I'm going to have negative b, so negative 4 over 2 times a. So I get negative 4 over negative 4, which will give me 1. Now I do the same thing or not the same thing, but I take this x value and plug it into the function. So if I do that, I need to figure out f of 1. So it's going to be negative 2 times 1 squared plus 4 times 1 minus 5. So we'll get negative 2 plus 4 minus 5. So we're going to get negative 2 plus 4 is 2. 2 minus 5 is going to give us negative 3. So my vertex is going to be 1, negative 3. Now, is this a minimum or a maximum value? Again, we look at our a. My a value is negative 2. Since it's negative, that means it's going to be flipped upside down, so this has to be my maximum value. Alright, we're going to end with 2 more examples, and it's going to be the easier of the 2 forms. So let's say we had f of x equals negative parentheses x minus 1/2 squared plus 9/4. So remember, in this form, my vertex is going to be hk. So since this number right here is inside the parentheses, you take the opposite of that. So my h is going to be positive 1/2. The k value you don't change. So you take it as is, and that's going to be 9 over 4. Now you just have to determine, is this a minimum or maximum value? Well, I look at my a value, which is right out in front of the parentheses, and notice it's negative, so it's flipped upside down. So that's a maximum value. Alright, we're going to end with one more example. So let's say we have f of x equals 3 times x plus 2 squared minus 5. Again, it's in the form that our vertex is going to be HK. So this number right here is inside the parentheses, so I take the opposite of that. So I get -2. The K value you're going to take as is. So I get -5 for my Y value. So my vertex is -2, -5. Now we have to determine, is this a minimum or maximum value? So I look at my A. Notice it's positive, so it'll be facing upward, which means this will be a minimum value. So this concludes our notes on quadratic functions. Be ready to solve some of these problems on your own at the beginning of class on Monday.